you, Travis, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Regional News. We start off in the island of Barbados. The island will be ready to roll out the first batch of the AstraZeneca vaccine late this month. Coordinator of the National COVID-19 Vaccination Campaign, Dr. Elizabeth Ferdinand, informed the country on Sunday night that the first vaccines would arrive later this week. Ferdinand said several special teams would be established, led by senior health sisters from each of the 9 polyclinics. She revealed they were hoping to have 30 teams, each with 8 or 9 people to handle the rollout of the vaccine. Ferdinand added Barbadians should not be overly concerned about talk surrounding whether AstraZeneca was safe for Black people. She cautioned, however, that people who were allergic to ingredients of AstraZeneca or those who had severe allergies would not be vaccinated. She also revealed that before the vaccination process is started, a full-scale public education program will be undertaken to inform Barbadians of the benefits that come with the vaccination. Heavy rains followed by an extended drought, an increase in local consumption, and a drop in the number of marijuana farmers have caused a shortage in the island's famed but largely illegal market that experts say is the worst they've seen. Jamaica, which foreigners have long associated with pot, reggae, and Rastafarians, authorized a regulated medical marijuana industry and decriminalized small amounts of weed in 2015. People caught with 2 ounces or 56 grams or less of cannabis are supposed to pay a small fine and face no arrest or criminal record. The island also allows individuals to cultivate up to 5 plants, and Rastafarians are legally allowed to smoke ganja for sacramental purposes. But enforcement is spotty as many tourists and locals continue to buy marijuana on the street, where it has grown more scarce and more expensive. Activists said they believe the pandemic and the loosening of Jamaica's marijuana laws has led to an increase in local consumption that has contributed to scarcity, even if the pandemic has put a dent in the arrival of ganja-seeking tourists. Tourists, too, have taken note, placing posts on travel websites about difficulties finding the drug. And now for an update from the church killing in Jamaica last week. Declaring that they would not surrender their sacred temple to criminals, worshippers at the Agape Christian Fellowship in Trelawney were back at church on Thursday, days after witnessing a shocking murder during one of their services. On Sunday, a brazen gun attack during a prayer and worship session had claimed the life of one of their own, 51-year-old Andrew Lowe Garewood. On Thursday, as they gathered to start the healing and receive counseling, the churchgoers vowed to return on Sunday for another worship session. Detectives assigned to the Falmouth CIB have charged 3 men in connection with the shooting death of the 51-year-old, a bank manager of Broke Manor in Trelawney, following an incident at a church on Market Street in the parish on Sunday, January 31. They are 31-year-old Leon Hines, a storekeeper of Rose Heights, Montego Bay, St. James, who was charged with murder, illegal possession of firearm, accessory before the fact, accessory after the fact, and conspiracy to murder. 29-year-old Javin Garwood, otherwise called Janoy, who was charged with murder and conspiracy to murder, and Dwight Bingham, who was charged with murder and illegal possession of firearm. Counseling for the members of the church was provided by the Victim Support Unit of the Ministry of Justice. A team from the Child Protection and Family Services Agency has also begun grief and trauma counseling for children who witnessed the homicide. The Reverend Junior Rotti, pastor of the Agape Christian Fellowship Church, reminded his congregation that in 2015, Delroy Roper was murdered while he preached in St. Andrew, and that in 2018, youth pastor James Johnson of the Church of God of Prophecy in St. Catherine was murdered inside the church. And finally, the struggle over Haiti's presidency intensified Monday as opposition politicians named their own leader of the country in an effort to drive out President Jovenel Moïse, whose term they say has expired. The smothering political crisis flared up Sunday when officials claimed they had foiled an attempt to murder the president and overthrow the government. Moïse has been governing without any checks on his power for the past year and says he is president until February 7, 2022, an interpretation of the Constitution rejected by the opposition, which led to protests asserting his term ended on Sunday. Some small demonstrations took place over the weekend, which included clashes with police, but residents of the capital Port-au-Prince largely stayed at home in a nation gripped by political uncertainty and a resurgence of kidnappings for ransom. In a video statement sent to AFP, Judge Joseph Maxine, 72, said he, and I quote, accepted the choice of opposition and civil society to serve his country as interim president for the transition, end of quote. But the United States has accepted Moise's claim to power, and he appears to have retained the leadership of the Caribbean island nation, which has a long history of instability and deep poverty worsened by natural disasters. And that is it for our region news this evening, and I continue to urge our viewers to stay indoors, wear those masks, use those hand sanitizers, and continue practicing social distancing. Back to you, Travis.